Good morning. Welcome to 5 Minutes or More with the Script Mentor. I am the Script Mentor and your host, Gino Scala. This is number 172. We're going to pick up from yesterday's presentation where we talked about page count, word weight. Just a refresher, SPEC scripts, your target page count is 90 to 110 pages. Comedies and horrors can be 80 to 90 pages. And, on a rare exception, you can go above 110, somewhere, up to 120. Anything over 120 is unacceptable. And there are no contests that will accept 120 pages or 100 above 120 pages without an additional fee. So that should give you a clue that it's not something that is desired. Now, when we talk about James Cameron and Quentin Tarantino, they average 150, 160 pages per screenplay. Cameron sometimes 200. But here's a clue. Their names are James Cameron and Quentin Tarantino. So they can pretty much do whatever they want. We're not there yet. Want to talk about what we talked about yesterday was the 1, 2, 3, 4 method. Remember? Master scene headings are 1 typed line. The descriptive text is 2 typed lines. The action text is 3 typed lines. And the dialogue, even though it's condensed, 4 typed lines. Now, this is an average over the course of the screenplay. You're going to have some instances where your action text is a little bit more than 3, and your dialogue is a little bit more than 4, but it's going to be offset by the fact that on another page, you're going to have an action text of 1 line, and the dialogue may be 1 word. So keep this in mind. This is an average. The only place where you don't skimp on this rule is the master scene heading. Do not have a master scene heading that goes longer than 1 typed line. And just to clarify from yesterday, when we talk about typed line, that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about sentences. You can have a sentence that lasts 3 typed lines. That we're not talking about 3 sentences. We're talking about 3 typed lines, 2 typed lines, okay? Also, the time of day, I call them TODs. There are 2 time of days acceptable in a SPEC script. Okay? SPEC script. And those are day and night. That's it. There are no dusk. There is no, early morning or sunrise or anything of that nature. It's simply day or night. And one of the reasons for this is that they're, and one of the producers passes at looking through the screenplay, getting down to the shooting script. They're looking at, night shoots are more expensive, more complicated due to lighting and things. So you want to, I'm not going to say you want to avoid night shoots, but the fewer the better. But they're going to skim through the screenplay to get an idea of the night. If everything takes place at night, it's going to be twice as expensive. So keep that in mind as well. If you'll notice on most night shoots in any movie, it's usually inside a residence, a building, or a forest, or a cave, or something of that nature. So when you have an urban setting or urban setting at night, you tend to attract attention. And you can disturb the neighbors, so there are some considerations along those lines. So we talked about the 1, 2, 3, 4 method. Keep that in mind. Passive and aggressive verbs. You're going to write in the assertive verb, just like you write in the current tense. All too often, I see screenplays written in past tense. He drove to the store instead of he drives to the store. And way too often I see the passive verbs being used. He was driving to the store. Um, the proper assertive verb is he drives, she walks. Okay? So if you change all your passive verbs to assertive verbs, you're also helping in the word weight because you're getting rid of probably over 100 was, W-A-S. And now one of my biggest pet peeves in a SPEC screenplay are camera directions. Ramp up, cut to, dissolve to, phase to black, things of that nature. We don't fade to black after every scene. That's not how it's done. If that's a choice that the director makes, then that's up to him. We do not give any camera directions. There are only two acceptable camera directions. Do you know what they are? That's right. Fade in and fade out. That's it. So avoid camera directions. This includes actor directions. We don't include the word beat, either in the dialogue or in the action. He takes a beat. You have the character's name, Tommy, and then, well, parentheses, beat. I didn't realize that was the case, or something of that nature. You don't include the word beat, okay? Let the actor say the line the way they choose to say it, the way that works for them, the way that works for the film that the director has in mind. Later on, if you're going to direct your own movie, then in the shooting script, you can include your beats and your instructions to the actor. I want you to pause here. I've seen extended pause, things of that nature. Those are actor directions that you, as a spec screenwriter, that you're submitting to a producer. You don't give any beats. One of the reasons is because those who use beats tend to overuse beats. It's like those who use parentheticals tend to have parentheticals on each and every dialogue. So these are beats are out. Okay, parentheticals is a technique that you want to use as infrequently as possible. I think when you're using up to 10 in a screenplay, that's probably too many parentheticals. Okay, so we talked about camera directions. We talked about, one thing we want to avoid is we hear or we see or the audience sees. I can't think of a situation off the top of my head, but I read it quite often. Or we hear an explosion. You write the explosion. By the way, inside a dialogue, things of that nature, these guttural sounds, that's not dialogue. Dialogue is spoken words. So if someone gets stabbed and they go, oh, then that would be in the action text. Tommy is stabbed in the chest and he screams as the blood bubbles from his mouth or something of that nature. Okay? So these are, let me end this presentation with just some quick story points. The first 10 pages of your screenplay should give the reader a clear idea of the genre. All right? If it's a horror screenplay, something horror related has to happen in the first 10 pages. All right? If it's a comedy, the first scene in the first 10 pages better damn well be funny, or else it's dead on delivery. The reader should have a general idea where the story is headed somewhere in those first 10 pages. At this point, you're you're writing your opening scene, you've introduced your main character, you've presented the problem that the character has to solve, and we get an idea that, this is where the story is heading. Throughout this story, this person is going to, try to solve this problem. Take Jim Carrey in Liar, Liar. We find out very early that because of, his son's birthday wish, he can never tell a lie. And that's fairly perfectly executed in the early part of the screenplay. And we know that being a lawyer, a defense attorney of all things, he is, and a playboy on top of that, he's going to have issues with lying. Okay? You should set a good tone for the story. Okay? Tone is important. If it's if it's tension, if it's a mystery or, some kind a drama, you want it to be, the tone to be tension filled. If it's a horror, you want it to be frightening. Your first scene should really capture the reader's attention. Just a reminder, what are the two acceptable camera directions? Fade in and fade out. So I can't tell you how many people forget fade in. But from fade in the first scene, you really have to capture the reader's attention in order to progress further. Okay? You want to target A-listers to potentially be your protagonist in your screenplay. So make sure that the protagonists and antagonists are really well-written characters, because this is what A-listers are looking for. You need to do an excellent job in describing action. Okay? So that's something you want to work on. And again, your target is 150 to 180 pages. Okay? So keep those points in mind, and this concludes number 172. We'll be back tomorrow with number 173. Look for the LinkedIn poll question. It's not in there yet, but it's going to be about log lines. So, and next week perhaps we'll target the very, very deep topic of log lines. Okay? And that'll do it. You all have a great day. Take care.